bear in mind, we grew up really independent. We didn't have the same friends. We were not in the same schools. Naomi left home really early. I was always at home. She was always out. We didn't have the same life. Out.
Hi, I'm Helena, and I'm joined by Ibeyi for the latest in NME's In Conversation series. Lisa and Naomi, thank you so much for joining NME. How are you?
We're great. We're great.
Where are you at the moment?
We're in London.
Lovely. Well, I just want to dive right in with the forthcoming new album. When did you start work on it?
We start working on it on September 2020.
2020?
Yeah.
So it's kind of encompassed this whole pandemic period.
Yeah, we had, we've been lucky to make what we love during this pandemic. I know it was not the same for everybody, but we feel really lucky
to have been able to be in the studio. And it was hard because Naomi lives in France and I live here, and the studio is in London. And so she had to come in, isolate for like 15 days alone without seeing anyone.
Every time
go to the studio, then it's I don't know how much swab we had to do.
I'm a master in the swab, let me tell you.
But we were really grateful. Because then suddenly making music, you realized how easy it was before, and to be able to create with other people. So suddenly when we were in that room, we were so happy to be able to do what we love and what we, are passionate about.
The last album came out in 2017. So, aside from the pandemic and how things changed there, what else has changed for you since that time?
So much. We are not the same women. We used to, we were children when we put out our first album. We were 18. We're now 27. 10 years almost. And we are in a different place in our lives. We are in a different place in our bodies. We are in a different place in our minds. And I think this album is a reflection of that, and is a reflection of also us having the time to look back at what we've done for those 10 years of Ibeyi existing, and being proud of what we've done, and knowing our place, and being really comfortable with ourselves, and suddenly being able to say, hey, look, we've done really good, and let's continue, and let's be proud, and let's show that confidence that we feel.
When you started going into making this new album, were there any particular creative influences or kind of musical touch points which was the start for making this record?
What I can say is that we did this one differently as the other two. Because usually, Lisa, she writes the music, the songs, the lyrics, and with the piano. So there's a bass. And then when we were going to the studio before, we were all three together. And it's true that Richard and I were more directing the production, but Lisa is still there. It's a collaborative work. But for this one, Rich and I started together, just making beats, and it was really nice because we weren't even listening to Lisa's songs. We were just having fun. And so Lisa's song had to adapt to what we've done, and we didn't have to adapt to the songs she was making as we were doing before. So I think even the process, it's a better balance between Lisa and I. I think it's the most balanced album that we ever done.
I agree.
Yeah,
I think what was really beautiful also for me, from my side, was seeing the songs having to gain muscle, because they were all ballads, and they always are all ballads. Even if they're higher tempo, they're still quite stripped down and have somehow something melancholic in it. Suddenly they had to not only find a match, which was kind of fate. Is it gonna work? Is it not gonna work? There was this element of surprise, which was amazing. But then they had to gain muscle, and they had to become stronger, and be able to live up to the beat, which as a songwriter is amazing to watch.
I can definitely almost hear that process you're talking about in Made of Gold.
Yeah.
That's a single, that's been out a couple of months, and it's really beautiful. I want to talk about what inspired that song in particular first.
Well, that song is funny because Lisa, she never stops writing. So when we go to the studio, we always have, songs. But for this beat, I was like, I want a new song that you didn't write already. And she was like, oh, you sure? And I was like, yeah. And so she wrote it. I mean, when she writes in the studio, we're all there like saying ideas and whatnot. She wrote the song. We wrote the song basically in the studio that day. And at first it was really tricky because it was an intense day, because we're fucking intense people. And it was an intense day, but intense in a good way. It was not, it was like just intense, like trying to figure it out.
But you also didn't explain that it was the first song we did in the studio.
Yeah.
So it was the first time. They had done already a lot of beats and I had just arrived. And they were like, nah, we don't want to, on this one, we don't want to hear anything you've written. You need to write on the spot now because this one is special and we want something different. And I was like, oh my God. And then we were, the studio is like finding rhythm. So I think we were all like, what is this? And also the pandemic, there was so much, You're like, oh my God, what is this? What is this?
But it was great because it was as we were going, we were like, oh yeah, we it's good what we're doing. Like, this is the great path. It just was like, and I think when we finished the day, we were like, we don't really know if it's good. And the next morning we listened to it and we're really excited because we're like, this is really good, And sometimes you do things and you think is and some other time you're like, oh, it's amazing, and the next day you listen to it and you're like, oh, that was girl, bad. Yeah, that was really bad. Yeah,
that happens too. Yeah. But what was also really wonderful with this song is it started being a love song. So it was not the song that it had to become first. It was a love song, and as Naomi said, we were like kind of trying to find its way, and we knew it was good the next day, but we also knew something I always describe songs as teenagers, as like humans. They first, like babies, it's just an idea. Then they become teenagers. They're trying to find who they are. And then suddenly when you find it, they're adults. And then you're like, yes. And so it was a teenager, right? It was still trying to find and to tell us, actually, we were trying to find who it was, because songs always tell you who they are, but sometimes you don't hear it. And we were talking about the witches that got burned, and I turned to Aliyah, who is someone that works with us and takes photos when we're in the studio, and I said, can you imagine we lost all of that knowledge? And then we started talking about, our ancestors that when they were shipped to Cuba, lost all of their culture, and thank God in Cuba somehow, and in Brazil too, syncretism happened, and they were able to, keep some of our culture alive, but not all of it, and we lost so much history. And we were talking about that, and I was, getting worked up. And then Richard we always bring books to the studio. It's part of how we create, the three of us together. And Richard had wrote the Egyptian Book of the Dead, and he was like, open this book. And I opened it, and it was spell 31. And the spell 31 said, "O you with the spine who would work your mouth against this magic of mine, it has been handed down in an unbroken line. The sky encloses the stars, and I enclose magic." And that's a mix of the Egyptian Book of the Dead and the Tibetan Book of the Dead. And suddenly we knew. It was like a flash. It was the first song we've done in the studio for this new album. And suddenly reading the spell, not only we felt protected by the spell, like we felt like we needed to hear that the sky encloses the stars and I enclose magic, but also we needed to hear it has been passed down in an unbroken line. The idea of connecting to that power, right? the fact that it's not broken, the fact that there's ways to connect to that power again. All of us, not just Naomi and I, like everybody with their own culture, that power, that strength, that culture can be found inside of your own cells, right? And so I turned to them and I knew, and I said, the album is called Spell 31, and Naomi needs to, and I said, and we need to put the spell in Made of Gold. And Made of Gold is not a love song, it's about reconnecting to that power. And then we did the backing vocals, and I remember doing that, and I was like, oh my God, this is a calling, right? We're calling in everything. And then Naomi was like, I want to read the spell. I was like, okay. And she started reading it, and I definitely think you need an Oscar for that. For that spell, because it was so beautiful. One-time performance, you nailed it. And we were like, we're ready. Suddenly we were ready for everything else. It was like, you know, those moments where you turn a page and you feel it through your veins. It was amazing.
So those themes that you're talking about on Made of Gold, but you know, the witches and the lines to your ancestors and the heritage and the culture, are those all things we're going to hear across the album?
Not only. No. We also talk about, I mean, we always, and actually, you know, funnily enough with us, these are themes we've always talked about, and that was there throughout our music, because they're such a part of what we feel when we sing. So they're always there. But we also talk about love, about what it means to want to save someone and not being able to. We talk about, we have a Revolution song, which by the way is a cover from Black Flag. We also have a song about healers called Sangoma, which I love, which we opened the album with it. And it's kind of like falling into this world of Ibeyi again, right? Because the start of an album is super important.
Yeah, and I think also for this album, it's really funny because when I arrived, I said to Richard Russell, who we co-produced with, this amazing human being, and I said to him, I don't want to do an album. I want to do songs that stand for themselves alone. And saying that, I think we made the best album we ever made, because every song, even though before it was like that, it's not like we tried to make a story, but story made it herself. And also doing that, every song can be together strongly, can be alone, and they're really strong by themselves. And so I think this is also a big part of this album, where every song is important and every songs are strong.
Yeah, we didn't want to make an album with like, there's a thing called like
we never
did anyways, but this time we really wanted to be able to think of every song as a single, so that every song would stand as strong as each other. And funnily enough, we produced a lot more than normally, I think. With this album, we did a lot of songs. And then at one point, as we were playing all of the songs to our friends and our label and Ben, we realized that selection of 10 songs kept flowing together. It started becoming something where we couldn't separate them from each other. They felt like part of the same universe.
And we couldn't put another one in.
Yeah, we couldn't add another one, because then the balance was off. And I think that's how we realized, okay, no, this is an album.
That's such a beautiful way of describing a collection of songs together. We will talk about some of the songs on the record more specifically in a little bit, but I think I kind of want to talk about what was if we go back to Made of Gold, for example, you released kind of a video of you guys in the studios with Salieu talking and doing the song. And I also like how in the song itself, you can kind of hear you guys collaborating in the background. And I kind of want to, when you release that and when your fans watch that, it feels like such a community. Do you feel like you have a strong community behind you?
Yeah, and I think it's growing, and I think also, how can I say that? Secure about the community we're creating, and also secure about ourselves. So, I think the more you love yourself, the more you have a better community. But yeah, I think, we work like that, it's, of course, this path, this Jorja, it's like they're famous, and, but it's family,
It's a connection.
It's a connection. We don't do that because of who they are in the public. We do that because of who they are in real life, and it was amazing because we love to collaborate. I think this is what we love the most, and just creating together and talk together. We really lucky to have started this journey with the producer that, we talk a lot about a lot of things. We live, we laugh, we cry, we see movies, we see exhibitions. Like, it's really empowering. And so I think that's how we like to work.
That it's an experience. It's not just for the music, it's also to enrich our lives. It's a whole experience for us. It's a human experience. We couldn't imagine working with someone that we find that is an asshole. We need to.
Hell no.
We need to feel that there's a connection and that there's a journey with them.
No, and even though we don't know them, like for example, Pao, we didn't know him before, but we knew when he came. It's it's an instinct thing, And Jorja, we knew her.
It's the same,
time.
yeah.
But and it was, and most of the time it was not even like we have to make a song, because it was like, just let's have fun and we'll see. We think about the moment. We're not thinking about after how we're gonna do it, and you know what I mean. Like, it's just enjoy yourself, and then you'll see. The business is later.
But to answer your question about the community, we definitely feel like we've built something. And again, that we had to stop to realize it. Stop and look back at people that had messaged us, the artists that had messaged us and told us that, we inspired them, artists that we are so inspired by and that we look up to. So it takes taking a breath. We're also really ambitious, so obviously we also don't want to repeat ourselves with like, what's next? What can we go? Where can we go deeper? La, 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 la. But sometimes, and actually, if this pandemic had brought something positive, is that the idea of stopping and looking back and being so grateful for everything that had happened. Yeah.
I really want to talk a bit more about the collaborations on the album, because there are so many exciting ones. You mentioned Jorja Smith and Par, obviously. How do you, first of all, give us a bit of a little list of who's going to feature on the album, but also how do you go about reaching out to the people that you want?
So we have BERWYN, Jorja Smith, obviously, and Salieu, and well, Jorja, we in touch from a long time. So she just came in the studio just to,
she listened to the music,
to be with us, and it happened. And Pa also happened a little bit like that. Pa, it was like his manager was talking to Richard went out to take coffee or whatever, and he bumps, like, he saw Pa's manager, and he asked him like, what are you doing, whatever, and he said, I'm in the studio with Ibeyi, and he was like, oh, I really think Pa will be really happy to be in the studio with them. And so I think the next day, 2 days later, he was in the studio. That was it.
I love that, like fate.
Yeah, really, it's like that. And BERWYN, actually Jorja. Yeah, Jorja was the one that listened to Rise Above and was like, you should call him. And so we did. And it was incredible because he came a day we had a run through. So we were playing the whole album. That was unfinished, but still playing the whole album. And he listened to his song while listening to all of the songs. And when all of the songs finished, he literally stood up, went behind the mic. He had already written his part and rapped it. And I think he did one take.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Wow.
So it was also really magical because it was like so meant to be.
We don't like to push hard. If we have to push hard, then it's not happening.
No, you mean for collaboration?
Yeah. We fucking push hard.
Yeah.
No. But with collaboration, we don't like to like. If there's no answer or if it's too complicated, it's fine. Like we move on. I think it should be organic, and you should feel it and want to do it. If it's for other reasons, then it's fine. Yeah.
And what's the song that Jorja Smith features on? What's it called and what's it about?
Jorja, she's on Lavender and the Roses, who is kind of a love song. Basically wanted to help someone because you love this person, or you love your mom, you love your brother, you love your husband, your partner, but realizing they need to sort their problems out.
And that they can't take you into their darkness, because, the only thing you will do is deplete yourself of your own energy and not save them, because only themselves can save themselves.
You can be there, listen to them, but you can do the work for them.
And it's a really beautiful, like, the reason why I like this song is because I think it's a beautiful thing to talk about. Especially, I'm going to say that, but I think it's true, especially women have this tendency to, have to save. I have to save you because I love you. I have to save you. But the reality of it is you can't, which is even
if you want to deeply,
you can't. Which is a really difficult thing to admit to yourself.
Yeah.
And so it's a song that talks about that, and the idea that, the lavender and red roses you would send so that everything would get better,
Also on this album, you talk about not having to be perfect or do everything perfectly. Is that a recent revelation, or is that something that's built up?
For you. Not for you. For me, it took me.
I'm not perfect and proud of it.
You are closest to perfection someone can be, though. But to be honest, it took me 25 years to accept that I was not perfect. And I was trying to be perfect and miserably failing at it. And then getting so angry at myself for failing at it. And actually, this song really changed my life, Criatura, Creature Perfect. Because I felt like singing it made it real. And I would remind myself of it while I was singing it. And that, and I say with my bad poems, my soft belly, I don't know, there's something about this song where it was suddenly, even the things I would find unattractive, suddenly I find them somehow tender, and it was looking back at everything you are so harsh about.
When you were really young, though. I mean, when you were a teenager.
No, it's still until I was 25.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, it's only in the past 2 years that I started accepting that. And I wrote this song.
But in the songs, there's a lot of like lyrics that brings you to
my teenage years.
That's what I want to say.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
It's definitely reminiscing to those years.
Yeah.
When I was a teenager.
And it's so important for your listeners, like you said earlier, I think especially women, to listen to that and relate that to their own lives.
Also,
yeah.
I'm just going to say this. Actually, obviously it was different when we were teenagers. Social media was not that big and everything. But the idea of perfection now, today, is insane. Because at least back then when we were teenagers, from time to time you had to be perfect, look perfect, act perfect. Now it's every day on social media, and you have to act happy and funny and beautiful, and you need to.
It's sickening.
I eat green and I work out every day, and I'm always happy and I'm always done that. And actually, the reality of life is not like that at all. But I think that's why also
it will be boring. Also, like.
If life was only perfect.
It would be so boring.
Oh.
Also, with that, like one day, like having a big bum is in, and then the next day that's out, or, one day having like a certain hairstyle is right, and the other day it's not. So, yeah, I think it's very important to hear those words reflected back to you.
Because if you're running after perfection, you're never done running. And that's the thing. I think that's one thing when like you realize that, you learn to just, oh, I'm not going to do that. And also, if you're running after perfection, whose perfection are you running after?
Yeah,
like, yes, whose eyes?
Yeah.
Is it like your parents? So first it's your parents, then it's your sister, then it's like your producer, then it's actually the whole world, because Instagram has Instagram and all of the social media, they have an opinion about everything you do. And then it's your neighbor, and then it's like, it's impossible. Honestly, it's impossible.
Completely. Let's talk about some of the other songs on the record. I've heard Sister to Sister, and it's so good. It's deep, but it's also funny. You know, what's the core of the song? What's the story?
For me, when I listen to Sister, the image that comes to mind is Naomi and I as 10-year-old kids dancing in front of the mirror, listening to Shakira and Anastasia in Spain with our dad. And it was the first
who is like, it's crazy because our dad was a master in his art, and he was like really like,
he was a musician. Yeah,
he was a musician.
Yeah,
and he didn't care of us like listening. Like he was like, have fun, you know. The first time he one day he was like, girls, I'm gonna give you this money for you to buy your first CDs,
which was an event.
And we came back with Anastasia and Shakira, and it was like, great, I love it, you know. And we were listening to this every day, the same songs, and he never said anything, and it was amazing.
He let us have fun. And I think we, in our lives, the majority of the most happiest moments are always faced with music and dancing.
Yeah.
Our mom used to dance with us in the kitchen all of the time, and listening to Prince, and I feel like, and other musicians, and I feel like for us it's really a part of our childhood and of our happy moments. And when I think about our sisterhood, I see that. And so this song is that, but also what this song says, which I think it's important to say, it also talks about the feeling of being so in love with your sister and needing your sister next to you, but also sometimes it being too much and needing her to step back and you to step back, but then not wanting to be away, so needing to be really close again, but then it's too much.
But I think this is relationships in general.
Yeah,
like we all need our
that
space.
tension.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be sister brother, like you know, Lavender Red Roses, like parents, friends.
I think it's so lovely to see you two as sisters being always so open with each other, because I think, you know, a lot of families aren't like that. I wonder, is there something about being a twin? Do you feel like there's a connection beyond words, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And I think also it's how you grew up, like how your parents raised you. Like, you know, family, we're talking about everything since we were 8, you know, sex, drugs, whatever. It always have been like that, you know, in a really, for children, obviously, but there's no subject that we can't talk with our mom, you know,
talk about it. Yeah.
So it's like, I think it's how you've been raised. But also I think being a twin, thank Lord you didn't ask how is it to be a twin, because I would have said next question, because we heard it so much. But I think because we don't know what it is to not be one. So, but I think being a twin is really, it's even for us, sometimes we don't really know how to describe it. It's something special. I think it's really special. And I think, of course, we feel stuff that even not talking, we can feel. And I think sisterhood is something, but twinhood is more intense, probably.
I also feel like there's something really special in the idea of linking your life with another human being to such a degree.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I realize my sister is the most important person in my life for the rest of my life, because I've linked myself to Naomi, to my twin, with Ibeyi. Also, bear in mind, we grew up really independent. We didn't have the
Yeah.
same friends. We were not in the same schools. Naomi left home really early. I was always at home. She was always out. Like, we didn't have
She
the
was
same
always
lifestyle. Out. We didn't have the same lifestyle. We don't have the same personality.
We don't like the same people.
We don't like
Thank
the same
Lord.
things. Thank Lord. Yeah, we don't. We're really quite opposite. And then suddenly, actually, people never called us the twins. They called us like Lisa and Naomi. And then suddenly we created this band, and now everybody calls us twins because Ibeyi means twins in Yoruba. So suddenly, you know, everything we do publicly is linked to our twinhood, to us being together. And I have to say, this band is because of how different we are, and suddenly our differences, our strengths just work together. It kind of made sense. I don't know how to explain it to you, but I grew up not knowing that there was something special that we needed to find for it to make sense, and it finally does through Ibeyi. The mix of our two universes and two energies makes sense. It's like the yin and yang, you know, it really creates the path.
The power.
Completely. You speak about, you know, your family, and I think you can really hear that on Sister to Sister. What kind of music did you listen to when you were younger? What you mentioned kind of everything, but
everything, hip hop, jazz, a lot of those classical music,
Yoruba music,
funk, like really everything.
And also our parents were not like a lot of parents that are musician or in the musician world, where, you know, when you listen to popular music, they're like, oh, what's that? Like our dad played for Celine Dion, which, by the way, I'm a huge fan of. And so when I heard that, I was beyond happy. But, you know, he never quantified what is good music, what is bad. He was not interested in that. He was interested in music as a whole. And I think we learned a lot by listening to his music, because he passed away before I even started singing. He passed away before you started playing. Naomi played the cajon for the first time the day of his death. So he never saw, well, I mean, he sees us, but he never saw us play, really. And so therefore, the way we kind of connected through to him and to what his legacy was through his albums. And listening to his albums, we realized, oh, our dad loved everything. He loved hip hop, he loved jazz, he loved folk music, and he just mixed everything and made his own music through all of those things that he sucked in. And I feel like really unconsciously we did exactly the same.
Yeah.
You know, you as a group, you have never shied away from deep topics, serious topics, impactful topics in your music. You mentioned briefly a little earlier, Rise Above. I think that song on this upcoming album is a really clear example of not shying away from anything. It's very powerful. Just tell us a little bit about it first.
Well, the craziest thing we're gonna say is that we never heard the original.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Which it's not because we don't like it.
It was just because Richard wrote the lyrics in a paper in the studio, and he was like, let's make a song with these lyrics.
I also read a lot about Black Flag. I read their tour. They made a book about their tour.
But afterwards, after making the song.
Yeah, after making the song.
Yeah.
No, and it's actually the reason why we don't want to listen to it. I feel like we're super protective of the lyrics, and we didn't want to be influenced by their melodies. Because when it gets into your brain, then suddenly, you know, you can't create something new because it has become the you know, not the norm, but kind of the seed in your head.
Yeah, but I think this is what you thought after not listening to it. But we didn't even think of that. We saw the lyrics and it was just a jam and it became a song.
Yeah.
And that's how it started.
And actually it flew out. Do you remember? It was the quickest song we did in the whole record.
Yeah, it was from, I don't know.
We were jamming for like 5 minutes and then it was like, it was like literally so easy. And it was like, you know, like good revolutionary song, when you sing them, like for you, I mean, obviously good, it's like for me, is suddenly you feel like the power like rising up like in your belly, and you're like
it's like a song like Deathless, you know?
Yeah.
It's our Deathless song in this album.
And we can't wait for people to sing it with us. I could hear people sing it, and I could hear the energy. I could feel the energy that we would have when we'll perform.
And it's funny because this song also, obviously, it can be for you know, we mixed race, so it can be for, you know, Black people, but it can be also for women. So it's
I think it's for everybody.
It's for everybody, and it's for all the people who feel like they've been beaten. Yeah, you know.
Yeah.
So it's just not for one, you know, it's not one subject. It could have a lot of subject in it.
And I think it's important because at the end of the day, we are here also to just be mirrors of what you want to feel inside. And so in a live show, if we get to feel you, to make you feel strong, if we get to make you feel your own strength and power by singing with us, by rising up, right? Suddenly, like, you feel like this whole room is just, that's kind of where we want to take you. That's where we want to take you. That's what we want you to feel. And then in other moments in the show, we want you to cry with us because we want you to allow yourself to do that.
And then, want you to sing, twerk, do whatever you want.
Exactly. Then in other moments, we want you to sweat. Yeah. We want you to feel your body and your sexiness.
Oh my God, Lisa is so sweat. You want to twerk. You want to like,
oh my God.
Give it.
Okay, twerk, sorry. Twerk. Here we go. Wine. We want you to wind down. Yeah. But basically, we also the songs that we love the most, the Ibeyi songs that we love the most, are the ones where we can imagine what kind of reaction the audience will have while we would perform them live. And that's why it's super important for us to always have you guys in mind, because that's what we live for, is those moments where we can feel we're all connected in a room, right?
Mm. So tell us when, you know, we might be able to get to see you live, and if, you know, if when that's happening, what are the plans for the tour, you know?
Live, we're starting this summer, but I think it will be in France. So I don't really know now. When is it?
But we're gonna tour internationally. So for sure you'll see us.
Yeah, it's starting this summer normally, and it's gonna change because for nearly 10 years we were only Lisa and I alone on stage, and for the first time we're gonna have a band with us. So we're gonna be 4 on stage now,
and then with moments where obviously it's just Naomi and I.
But yeah, it's a, you know, it's a whole new journey. Everything changed. You know, we have even our teams. We have new people. We don't work with other people. Like, you know, we changed everything, and we're really happy because I think you know, when you start something new, some new stuff has to come, you know, and yeah, it's a new, yeah. Hope it's gonna last as long as the first one.
Do you feel like it's some kind of like rebirth? Like,
yeah, it is. Completely. Yeah. It is. I think yeah, when you start your 18, obviously we knew what we didn't want, and that was a big strength of ours. But I think we thought we were ready for everything we wanted. We were not at all. And now we're ready.
Yeah.
Especially sometimes we were like kind of like apologizing, and that's finished. We're not apologizing anymore. We who we are, you like it, fine. You don't like it, fine also.
But also, it's not just that. I also think we don't want to repeat ourselves. We love what we do so much. And part of the reason why we love what we do is because every album we did was different. We went further, we searched, and it's the same live. We don't want to repeat the same thing. We want to bring you something that we feel and that is in adequation with how we are now. and we feel like it would be like wearing an old skin, like, you know, like chameleon shed skin, like it's then taking that skin and wearing it back, it would not feel real and authentic. And I feel like the best shows are the ones where the artist is literally performing at the best of their ability because they're in adequation with who they want to be.
No, I think also it's time. I think, you know, it was great to, because for Ibeyi, because it's so different, it takes more time, but we're happy with that. And I think we have a lot of layers, and we're just putting them out little by little. But we have a lot of things to show you.
I'm sure that everybody is so excited to see it all, hear the new album, see the new tour. Thank you so much for joining us on NME. It was absolutely amazing to speak to you.
Thank you.
We can't wait to meet you all again.
Yeah. And twerk.
And twerk.
And sweat.
Perfect.